Hello there, Idmov here. In this video I wanted to talk about the Sekhemas Trial and how I used to hate it at first, and now I have been doing it non-stop. I have seen so many people complaining about it, and I must admit I was one of those people at first, but now I have to say that it is probably one of my favorite things to do in PoE 2. It is quite good for currency and also really fun when you get everything right. As many other things in PoE 2, it starts slow and annoying to go through, but as you improve, it turns out to be really fast and enjoyable. To be able to progress in the trials, you need to get every floor done once, and there are a total of 4 floors. As a new player, it would be best to out-level the area by about 10 levels to make it easier for you to destroy the monsters inside to avoid getting hit first. And in the same time, you need to grab some decent relics, as these will be the bread and butter. After you manage to kill the first bosses, you will be able to put in more relics inside the slots available in the relic altar. These relics consist in options that give you defensive and offensive attributes, but for the first part of the trial I would say that the defensive ones will be the best option as they will allow you to survive for longer. One thing to understand here is that you will have a honor meter which becomes your life bar, and it is the total value of your life and energy shield, so armor and evasion rating does not contribute to your honor. The main thing to focus on is getting as much life and energy shield as possible while keeping your resistance capped, and also focus on not getting hit by monsters or traps, which becomes a lot easier the more you practice. I must say that in the beginning I was feeling very anxious when I had to get past some of the monsters or whenever I was entering a new room. Once you go through the trials a couple of times, you will see that all this becomes very repetitive and you will be able to feel more comfortable. Why is the Sekhemas Trials important? Well, it is needed to get your ascendancy points, and it is a great way to farm currency once you're able to farm the 3rd and 4th floor. Honestly, it can be a game mode on its own, as it is close to a roguelike experience, and I'll explain how and why in a bit. But first, let's take everything step by step, and let's talk about honor. Honor becomes your life resource within the trials, and there are 2 main factors that will help you manage it better. First, honor resistance. It works just like your other resistances, which means it reduces the amount of honor lost when taking damage. The more resistance the better, as it caps at 75%. This can also be increased to higher values, but I see it not that important unless you play a slow melee build like a warrior that takes a lot more damage than other classes, but there are better options available, so 75% should be the sweet spot. And second, honor gains through various buffs and rooms inside the trial. The only way to get your honor resistance capped is through relics, and they can also vary in values. Later on, giving you the chance to cap your honor resistances with just like 2 or 3 relics, leaving room for other good stats that will make your run feel better. After going through the trials a couple of times, you should have a decent amount of relics gathered. These relics can be crafted with orbs just like other items, so keep that in mind. The best stats to focus on at start are increased defensives, increased honor resistance, and increased maximum honor. Once you have progressed and unlocked additional slots in your relic altar, you will be able to use more relics that will offer you tons of resistances and defensives, together with other bonuses like increased damage against bosses or merchant choices, which are the most important in my opinion, and so far have had the most impact in my runs. Having multiple options at the merchant can literally have a snowball effect on your runs. If you can grab some of the good stuff early on, your experience inside the trials will be a lot more enjoyable. This brings me to the next point, which is Balbala, the merchant. While going through the trials, you will encounter another resource, Sacred Water. This resource can be used to purchase different buffs from Balbala, or, as they're named in the game, boons. She can be encountered randomly throughout your rooms inside the trials, and it is marked as the merchant, but can also be found 100% after every boss fight. When finding her, you will be able to exchange Sacred Water for boons, or extra honor if you're in deep need of that. These boons can be minor or major, and will consist in options like extra movement speed, extra damage for you and your minions, boons that will make monsters within the trials weaker, and other options that will simply keep you alive. One thing to note here is that bosses do count as monsters from what I checked, so it is always worth picking anything that affects monsters. From my previous runs, the best options to pick early on would be Ornate Dagger, Hairfoot, Viscous Seeker, Sanguine Vial, and Fright Mask. Another insane option would be the Silver Tongue, as it reduces the prices of the merchant by 50%. One thing to note here is that it affects the current merchant, so buying that first will result in all the prices of all other boons to be reduced by half. Just like in other roguelike games, the more power-ups you have, the better your experience will be. And that's where all the fun comes in. Seeing your character zoom through rooms with crazy amounts of damage and crazy amounts of speed, obliterating everything in its path, will just do the trick. Throughout your runs, you will also notice that some of the rooms have a purplish highlight to them. This means that the room you're about to enter will give you an affliction. These afflictions are pretty much the same thing as boons. They come in as minor and major, but their role is to make your character weaker or simply deplete your honor bar. One thing to note here is understanding the character you play and what's best to avoid. Picking up the affliction that reduces your movement speed is probably the worst one to pick unless your character can charge and blink around without care, or afflictions that affect your armor, evasion, and energy shield, unless you do not care about that particular defensive. As an example, I run a minion build, and my character does not have any armor or evasion, so this debuff will not affect me. Instead, if I pick the no energy shield one, I am left with a really small health pool, while also nuking my honor bar as it counts to the total value of health and energy shield. But luckily, armor and evasion do not count towards that. Other than that, from my experience, avoid afflictions that will add even more afflictions to your character as you progress, and stay away of the ones that will randomly pick rooms for you, as it can result in a dead run. Once you get everything in place, you can easily use the trials as a fun way to enjoy the game, as I pretty much did for a few days now, and it can also lead to some really good rewards in terms of getting items to sell to other players or use for your own. In order to get your rewards from the end of each floor, you will need keys: bronze, silver, and gold keys. These keys will allow you to open loot chests that are filled with items indicated by the name of the chest you're clicking on. It is worth to mention here that the further you are within the trials, the better your rewards will be. One thing I want to add here is that you will not make a lot of currency inside the trials. Most of it comes from items, as they can value to something like 10 divines. So if you're in for big explosions of divines and exalteds, then breaches and killing rares inside maps can be a better option. I also don't want to tell you that this method will 100% make you rich by doing it, because it's Path of Exile and everything is RNG. But some runs can result in some crazy drops that will have a huge impact on your economy. If you really want to add some more currency to your runs and your character can kill the bosses easily and complete all rooms without taking damage, it is worth helping other players to get their ascendancy done for a small fee. This should be everything you need to know about Sekhemas Trials. Any questions about the trials, feel free to ask in the comments and I will be happy to reply to them. Till then, thank you for watching Exile. Have a great one and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.
Watch your step. Rid yourself of your delusions. You are not in control. This grows late. Return to nothing. Wither into nothing. This only ends one way.